Alright, so here we are with our reasonable opening hand. We do have two copies of Nahiri, um, and we've got, four spells, three lands. We can discard one of the Nahiris to the other one if we want to. Sometimes that's just the best line. And it looks like our opponent's mulliganing down to 5 here. So we'll see what that means. Verdant Catacombs could mean a few different decks, so let's not jump to any assumptions too early, but we're just going to lead on this Flooded Strand here. And probably going to fetch a Steam Vents with this one. We do have Anger of the Gods in our deck, so having double red early is going to be important most likely. And so it looks like this could be something like Collected Company here. We're seeing Scavenging Ooze, which we have to be wary of Scavenging Ooze, and especially if we draw a Snapcaster Mage. Okay, that's kind of awkward. It's our third copy of Nahiri. We weren't really happy about 2. The third one is just overkill. But like I said, we can always discard one of them if we want to, or we can use them as removal spells. We're just going to hold up Remand here in case our opponent has anything to play this turn. Okay, Malira. Malira's not really that annoying, but I think we just want to go ahead and cycle this Remand. So, yeah, I think we just want to get an island here. And Remand. Now we drew Lightning Helix, which is pretty solid. So we have a couple options here, and I kind of like just passing the turn, and we can hold up removal, and then we can set up Nahiri -2 on Scavenging Ooze. So, yeah, it looks like our opponent's just playing Malira, and so we're just going to kill the Malira here with Lightning Helix. And then on our turn, we're going to grab a Plains here. And, okay, so we drew Anger, which we didn't know we were going to draw, but it's our play is still going to be the same. If we had known we were going to draw Anger of the Gods, perhaps we would have played a little bit differently, but we can just hang on to it and exile the Scavenging Ooze. And our opponent has the option to gain a life, but don't care too much about that. So, looking pretty right now with Nahiri in play and a grip full of spells. We have multiple ways of dealing with this Kitchen Finks here. And so, yeah, we might as well just use the Anger of the Gods. Our opponent has completely emptied their hand. We'll cycle in Nahiri. Yeah, so we drew PN Kieran, which we can play on our next turn if we want to, but we're just going to go ahead and Anger away the Finks and Noble Hierarch. And our opponent's pretty much just in a really bad spot here. Probably if I'm on the other side of the table, I'm looking for a Collected Company. So, like, that's the one card our opponent could maybe have here that would be pretty good, but we're still just going to play PN Kieran. And we have Path to Exile at the ready. And yeah, so looks like our opponent just drew a brick and conceded. Don't really blame them for conceding there. We were really far ahead in the game. So let's take a look at what our sideboard options are. We want removal that exiles for cards like Voice of Resurgence and Kitchen Finks, so let's go ahead and bring in the Magma Spray and the Electrolyze. Taking a look at what we might want to take out, the counter spells are not all that effective. We've got a few different ones, so we're probably going to want to shave on some of those. Remand isn't very good. Mana Leak isn't that great. Lightning Helix is okay. We have 3 of them in the main. They're not perfect. We've got access to Aven Mind Sensor here. Timely Reinforcements is a card we could bring in to help stabilize the board a little bit. Sure, let's bring in a copy of Timely Reinforcements. And side out maybe one of our Lightning Helixes. Keep 2 in the main. We already have Bolts, so Bolt's a little bit better than Helix in this matchup, I think. And this seems pretty reasonable. We still want to keep in all of our Nahiris. Anything that exiles a creature is going to be much better in terms of removal. The reason why we want to stay away from having tons of counterspells in our deck is that we are playing against Voice of Resurgence, and that's just a nombo whenever your opponent has a voice and you have counters in your hand. So interesting in terms of which land we want to lead off with, but it seems like it's probably just the Celestial Colonnade. Now, you will notice the 1 copy of Hallowed Moonlight in our hand, and that has the potential to blow our opponents out. Especially if our opponent has something like Collected Company or even just Persist Creatures, could be an unexpected play. But it looks like this game's proceeding somewhat slowly. So see if our opponent wants to commit anything to the board here. Nope, looks like not going to. So we're just going to anticipate here. We kind of just want the 4th land, even though Anger of the Gods is a good card. I think we just take the island here, so we can just play Nahiri if we want to this turn. So, yeah, we're just going to go ahead and do that. And we can probably just pitch a Lightning Bolt here. We have multiple Snapcasters, so being able to Snapcaster back, either Anticipate or Lightning Bolt, we'd just rather keep the Snapcaster and discard our excess instance in this spot. But it looks like could be a big play here from our opponent. Okay, it's going to be a Chord of Calling. Alright, Chord of Calling for Voice of Resurgence. Playing around Hallowed Moonlight, interestingly. So we can just go ahead and tick Nahiri up here, pitching a land, and we drew a path, so we can just go ahead and path away this Voice of Resurgence. That's just the easiest way to deal with it. And if we had known our opponent would have post-board Chord of Callings, we could have brought in the Aven Mind Sensors, and we'll think about that for Game 3 if we get that far. But Nahiri is on 8, so we are going to be able to just search for Emrakul and potentially win the game on our next turn. And it's pretty hard for our opponent to have anything here to deal with that. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. I think we just want to go for it. Alright, here's going to be something. Chord of Calling for 4, so this is pretty interesting. We can Howlin' Moonlight here, but that means we won't get the Emrakul into play, because it wouldn't be cast. So if we Howlin' Moonlight, we can stop the Chord, right? But, we can't go ahead and get Emrakul after that with our Nahiri. So, thinking about a 4-mana creature, I can't really think of any that are that scary, but we'll see what our opponent can find with this Chord of Calling. Yeah, so it's just a Murderous Redcap, so we don't actually care about this Murderous Redcap. We're just gonna get Emrakul here. So, yeah, let's just go ahead. Okay, so our opponent did redirect the 2 to Nahiri, so that's kind of annoying. The red cap came in, dealt 2 to Nahiri, so we could have Howlin' Moonlighted to stop that, but I think we're still in a quite a good position. So we could go ahead and Snapcaster Path away this Murderous Redcap. Let's just go ahead and discard a Lightning Helix here. And yeah, we're just going to Snapcaster Path the Redcap. And we still have the Howlin' Moonlight at our disposal in case something somehow goes wrong here. Okay, Spellskite. So yeah, we're just going to respond to the Spellskite with Snapcaster getting Path to Exile. And now if our opponent has another Chord of Calling or a Collected Company, we do still have the Howlin' Moonlight that we didn't use on our last turn. So Chord for 2, we can just go ahead and Howlin' Moonlight now. That. And I mean, now our opponent's going to have no way to deal with this Emrakul coming in. And we also have Snapcaster Mage, so we can Snapcaster Mage the Howlin' Moonlight later if for some reason we feel like we need to. I mean, our opponent... We also have just 6 points of burn in our hand. So if our opponent just takes the damage from this Emrakul, it's pretty hard to see the game not just ending. So yeah, let's get Emrakul here. And yeah, we're just going to swing with both. I think it's right to just go ahead and get the Emrakul as fast as possible, because you might draw it at some point, and obviously drawing it naturally is not what we want. Alright, so now our opponent's just dead based on the cards that got sacrificed. We're just going to go ahead and get rid of this Noble Hierarch here, and that's going to be 17 damage coming across.